Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side. We're going to do half cup of chocolate.
Yes. Our panelists this morning, Edwin Kigoli, Mesha Kodede and Hans Rope. Look at the cabinet going forward now that the new team was sworn in yesterday, plus the future or otherwise of Maandamano.
Oh yes.
Yes.
And the youth revolution, as we have so called it. But then getting into the 8 o'clock hour, it is a feel-good Friday o'clock. DJ Granite, the 1s and 2s, 3s and 4s, Worlds of Steel. And I make sure weekend yako imeanza vizuri as possible. And then just to the man, the Riz, Ujama anarushianga mistari kwa song zake. Una feel eish.
Anaitwa Kidum. Sikuwa najua anaitwa Kibido pia.
I'm pretty sure kuna wengi kwa harusi yao wametumia ngoma zake.
Kidum.
Wamekatia watoto wenyewe na ngoma zake. Kidum Kibido will be joining us for that as well.
All right.
Getting into the headlines.
Ruto's team of rivals. Yes, you know, it's funny. But that's a headline on the front page. The full page. But of course now the other headline that we have to mention, a quick one. This lady's on all the front pages. Impeached. Will Governor Kawera be third time lucky?
Kuna hiyo picha wametumia hapo ya Joho akisalimia. I'm curious why they chose that one.
And they said rivals. They're talking about rivals.
You know, una cue song ya Escobar, lakini anyway.
A tale of chaos and an easy calm. That's the Daily Nation. Still talking about the events yesterday. Away from cabinet, no mention of the cabinet here, apart from CSs to bear weight, blah, blah, blah. We'll come back to that. But Mwangaza still on the front page. Mwangaza impeached again for a third time.
Oh yes. Kwenye gazeti la People Daily, they continue with kufinya
People Daily wanafinya kweli. Another turn to eat for cabinet. But still, Kawera Mwangaza there on the front page.
They say back on the cross.
How Raila Ruto deal deflated Gen Z demos. Do you agree with this headline?
Unaniangalia uko zile za iliisha.
Sababu amesema Gen Z, unajua swali si yangu. But that's a star.
But anyway, yes. Kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo, polisi wafunga jiji. Yesterday, sikuingia into Nairobi, but then I was told, hey.
Walianza na roadblocks as early as 4 a.m.
Getting into even the evening as 5 p.m.
The irony is even businessmen didn't get to work yesterday. Traders had to close shop.
Yes.
So either way, the city was occupied.
Because, yeah, true. It was occupied, but then not by Gen Z.
By police.
By police. Business matters. Rival dealers way buy out of bankrupt SUV maker Mobius. They continue this conversation. They had it yesterday, pale chini. The end of Mobius. It is the beginning of the end of Mobius.
All right, we'll come back to discuss that later. Across the border in Tanzania, mambo magumu binti aliyebakwa. They're still discussing that gang rape incident in Dar es Salaam and more details there. Asema kukamatwa watuhumiwa bado utata. Chalamila azungumzia tukio, asema binti yuko sehemu salama akipatiwa tiba ya ushauri. Wadau waendeleza kupaza sauti wakitaka wazi haki vitendeke. Virusi vipya vya homa ya nyani vyaishtua WHO. Talking about MPox.
MPox, yes. Monkeypox virus.
Interestingly, we are not talking much about it here in Kenya. At least it's on the front page of the dailies in Tanzania. Samia afunguka ununuzi mashangingi wa serikali. I cannot tell you what they're talking about. I give up.
I remember WHO think they're supposed to meet for this just to see how it's going to even affect the European countries.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, they always say, oh, kifika Africa, oh, msikuje. Sasa in Uganda, I tell you, kuna watu wazuri sana hapa. They stole the official car, the Inspector General of Police.
Hey.
And that's the big headline on the front page of the New Vision in
Talk
Uganda.
about guts.
I tell you, unaenda unasema the official car, si ati ile ingine amepaka hapo kando.
Ile kuna bendera ile.
Ile kuna bendera. Hiyo ndio tunataka na tunaenda na. The best headline for a Friday. Yeah. And they also have a ferry. The Lake Kyoga to get 300 passenger ferry. Interesting there in Uganda. Back to Tanzania. Energy company hits Tanzania with 3.2 trillion shilling legal action. Usistuke. This is close to our budget. Yeah, the entire year. But this is Tanzanian money.
Yes. They also make mention to what I was alluding to earlier. WHO, the World Health Organization, convenes emergency meeting on MPox virus. During the meeting, international health experts will determine if the MPox, the monkeypox outbreaks, is a public health emergency of international concern. Okay. And here, well, if they talk about really international concern, they're worried about the USA and the European countries and Asia. Okay. Kama itafika huko.
Lakini wanajua iko hapa Afrika.
They know it is
Sawa
here.
Tu. Let's come back home and take a look at the traffic situation.
Tuangalie how the roads were clear though in the morning.
Today is Friday traffic, typical Friday traffic, nothing much. Typical, okay, back to business. Yesterday, Jogoo Road was green. Today it's back to the same trouble spots. Makadara, Mbotela, City Stadium roundabout, same thing, nothing out of the ordinary. Around Marikiti, Haile Selassie, Landis Road, a bit of traffic at this time of day, which is expected. That is normal traffic. The other one, the biggest indicator of normal traffic is usually around here. This area, Muthaiga, Pangani roundabout, and you can see this traffic. So that is normal traffic. Normal. So we are back to business. Kiambu Road and Thika Road are looking good. Southern part of Nairobi. Kombali.
Getting into Mombasa Road. There's something happening here.
That's the entry of the expressway around Cabana, so nothing different. All the way into town, looking good. Gog Road, Prestige, that T-junction there, also normal traffic. So today we're back to normal traffic. As at 10 minutes past 6, everything is new. You can get into town comfortably at this time.
Yes. Yako iko mbele na 1 minute.
Ni vizuri kuwa mbele. Oh, kibaki nyuma.
Yangu inaonyesha 6 or 9. Yes. Let's get into the weather and see how things are looking like. Tuanze na Samburu. Samburu right now it's 17 degrees Celsius. It promises to get warmer than this, but then it will get as warm as 23. Some very light showers into the evening, so prepare for that if you're in Samburu. If you're in Tana River to the coastal region, 22 degrees Celsius right now. That's quite warm in other areas. But then yes, 33. Hii hata si la kuchili.
Inaweza pika nyama.
Hii unatembea tu na vest.
Holiday weather.
Holiday. Hii hata si holiday. This is quite high. 33 degrees Celsius if you're in Tana River right now. And because it's a Friday na tutakuwa na nyinyi kesho, tuangalie pia ya weekendi. That's how it's going to be. Just the same if you're in Tana River. If you're in Kisii, 16 degrees Celsius right now, kutakuwa na mvua. Hii watu wako nyumbani wanaonanga hiyo wanafurahia because inamaanisha chakula inarudi Nairobi vizuri.
All right.
Yes. If you are concerned about the weekend, it might be raining in over the weekend. Highs of 23 and lows of 15. On Sunday, might probably not be raining. And then finally in Nairobi, 15 degrees Celsius right now, but it feels like 12
Very
degrees.
cool. It's already raining, but there's no indication of rain here.
Yeah, by the way. But then it's going to be cloudy, so expect some cloudy conditions into the mid-morning, and then jua kidogo tu itatokea. Over the weekend, highs of 23 and lows of about 13 and 14. That takes us to our diary.
Nataka kuzungumzia mambo ya Olympics. What is happening today?
Yes.
That would feature Kenyans probably. We have the men's 800 meters. Second semi-final, which will be featuring Kinyamal, that's a Kenyan athlete. We also have the third semi-final of the same race, men's 800 meters, featuring Wanyonyi. And the finals of the women's 10,000 meters, so possible possibility of a medal here with Kipkemboi running that race. In as far as...
this one actually, for more, we're going to be having Margaret Kipkemboi, going to also have Lilian Renge-Root and Beatrice Chebet.
Okay. Yesterday, Julius Yego finished 5th in the javelin, so no medal from there. So on the medal standings, we are still at the same. 5 medals in total. Meanwhile, the US has 30 gold, 103 medals. But usi panic because we are still the leading African country so far.
For real?
South Africa, Nigeria don't even have a single medal up to now, not even one bronze medal. Yes. So Kenya is still the leading African country at the Olympics in Paris 2024.
Alafu.
Not so bad. Not so bad.
Alafu kesho tunakutanga King Choge. Tomorrow very early in the morning, I wake up because he's going to be representing. He's going to try something that no man has ever tried. Having a 3-time gold in Olympics. Atakuwa anajaribu kupata the 3rd gold tomorrow morning for the marathon.
So we could actually go up.
We might.
Once we get a 2nd gold, we go up. Because you see where South Africa is? That's the 2nd African country. Uganda comes 3rd, and tukiendelea hivyo hivyo. So not so bad. We can look at the diary now.
Most definitely, because you had alluded to that. First off, in our news diary, we're going to be taking you all the way to Parliament buildings, and something interesting is going to be happening today. The cabinet vetting of CS as well as AGs are going to be having the EAC Affairs and Regional Development. Beatrice School, Moi, as well as nominee for Attorney General Dorcas Agik Oduor will be taking place. So the first one will start at around 10 a.m. and the other one at around 2 p.m. thereabout. Then for the next event happening today, President William Ruto will continue his tour to the Mount Kenya region. Today he is expected to visit Murang'a County, where he will, among others, launch last mile connectivity, Marewa and Kambiro Market. Later in the day, he will launch Mitaruakwa, Hapaulo Mbari Yahiti Gitiri Gatuyo Road, among others as well.
Barea hiti.
Oh, okay. Nimeisema kama mzungu.
Hafaoro, Barea hiti, Gitiri Gatuya Road.
Oh.
Eni.
Eni. Nimeisema kama kama mzungu mwenye amekuja kuvisit.
Okay.
Right, let's take a look at another event in our news diary. Something that is continuing in courts. The former Director General of National Industrial Training Authority, that is NITA, Paul Kipsang, and 4 others are set to appear before the Milimani Anti-Corruption Court for mention of a case where they're charged with abuse of office, among other details as well. And then to the final page, you had alluded to this earlier, but then just reiterate on it. Today is actually day 14 of that Paris Olympics, where again we're going to be having Margaret Kipkemboi, Lilian Renge-Root and Beatrice Chebet taking part in the 10,000 meter women's final. Fingers crossed we're going to be having probably a podium sweep. We have not seen this yet so far, so maybe, fingers crossed, we're going to have this. And then tomorrow, apart from that event, Eliud Kipchoge, we're also going to be having Edwin Kurgat, Jacob Krop and Ronald Kipkemboi compete in the 5,000 meters men's final at around 8:50 p.m. That's for tomorrow at Saturday for day 15. So again, weka watu kwenye maombi. Let's take a look at today in history right now. On the 9th of August 2022, Kenyans went to the polls in also the end of the second and final term of the Jubilee Alliance Party government and now immediate former President Uhuru Kenyatta. The general election saw then Deputy President William Ruto pitted against ODM leader Raila Odinga, Roots Party leader George Wajakoya and Agano Party leader David Mwaura.
All right, and I'm just reminded that that Barea Hiti, it means the clan of hyenas.
Oh, okay.
Let's now take a look at the dailies. All right, a very nice montage of photos on the front page of The Standard with a big headline, Ruto's team of rivals. Two faces of Kenya, President Ruto admits to failures and urges servant leadership among 19 cabinet members sworn in into office on a day dubbed Nane Nane by Gen Z. Demonstrators who braced heavy police deployment and barricades to protest against bad governance and demand that they be heard. And we do have a photo there of some of the demonstrators. But when they talk about Ruto's team of rivals, they've chosen this photo of President Ruto with mining CS Hassan Joho. So are they saying that he's a rival? You know, a picture can speak 1,000 words.
Yes, oh yes.
Yes.
You handshake bedeli kwa refu. Angalia na zingine.
Nasema tuko hapa. Other events, police tore away a vehicle belonging to businessman Jimmy Wanjigi at his residence in Nairobi yesterday. A lot did happen.
Yeah, Jana was a very busy day.
Events unfolded, businesses paralyzed, streets deserted in Nairobi and parts of the country as Gen Z led Nane Nane. Heavy police deployment and barricades in Nairobi, Nakuru, Mombasa and Migori. An easy calm in Mombasa and some key towns in Nyanza, North Rift and Central. And meanwhile, police raid businessman Jimmy Wanjigi's Muthaiga home, accusing him of ferrying demonstrators to the Nairobi CBD. Of course, the other story given prominence, and this is across all the dailies, is the impeachment of Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza. Impeached, will Governor Kawira be third time lucky? And they say 49 out of 69 county assembly members voted to send home Governor Kawira Mwangaza, the third time in under 2 years. The last impeachment was only in November last year.
Yeah.
It's not even been 12 months yet. Setting the stage for a titanic battle for survival at the Senate and potentially in the courts. The story is on page 8. And finally, in sports matters, Olympics, smiling Chebet chases a second Olympics gold. Fresh from clinching Kenya's first gold in Paris, 5,000 meters champion Beatrice Chebet chases history tonight in the 10,000 meters final. And this coverage continues on the back in the sports pages. Olympics is on pages, 30, 31, and 32. Chebet set for Olympics history as she chases her second gold. If she does this, will move quite high in the medal rankings. And that is a standard today.
Kabla tutoke kwa the standard, obviously kuna the pulse hapo katikati.
Nilijua tu.
Ulijua tu. There's a very interesting bit there, and obviously Right and Cape Media, you know, hosting Israel Mbonye. Kesho, the big event, and they talk about something here, how modern artists are redefining worship there. Well, obviously they have a photo of the model there, but then now this leo focus yangu haiko kwa the model, iko kwa that conversation there. Yes.
Interesting.
They talk about the church goes cool.
Interesting times.
Yes. There you hapo unaweza angalia matters other big deals there. The big deal Miss Universe and matters fashion on your pull out here of the pulse. Anyway, that is the standard. We'll be back there to take a look at the cartoons. Tuangalie Daily Nation right now. A tale of chaos and uneasy calm. Quote unquote, Nane Nane, pockets of protesters engaged in anti-riot police in running battles in central Nairobi throughout the day, disrupting business, travel and other activities in push for more reforms. But this was not the case in other towns across the country where Kenyans went about their normal businesses uninterrupted. We have quite the coverage on this on pages 4, 5, 6 and 7. You can take a look at that, more pictorials inset. But then they also really focus on, actually on page 3, they have a conversation that other dailies have somewhat forgotten about, the intrigues behind nominees' rejection. And they revive that story, Stella Soilangat, CS nominee for gender as well. We also expect and anticipate President William Ruto to be naming maybe another or maybe renaming her for that ministry.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Tuangalie other headlines. One of the biggest conversations for today as well. Mwangaza impeached again for the third time. Pale chini, what I was talking about. King of the road, Kipchoge, on the cusp of marathon glory. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. on the roads of Paris, Kenya's Eliud Kipchoge will attempt to achieve what no man has ever done, win a third back-to-back Olympics Games marathon gold. On the very top strip, siasa's bear weight of expectations. Ruto insists on delivery. And, well, that conversation about so near yet so far, why Stella Langat lost her cabinet post. On the back page, they revive conversations about education and higher learning, really. They say varsity funds applications remain low. This even after deadline was extended. Tens of thousands have yet to submit applications. If you're watching us this morning, angalia maneno, and then if you're really supposed to submit your applications, kindly do so as well. That, in a nutshell, is Daily Nation for you.
Alright, tuangazie gazeti la Taifa Leo. Wanasema polisi wafunga jiji, shughuli za kwama katikati mwa Nairobi baada ya askari kufunga barabara za kuingia jijini na kutimua wauzaji. And this was the irony. The police were supposed to ensure at least there's normalcy, yes, that business is not interrupted, but they ended up even chasing away the traders and telling them rudini nyumbani. So basically they interrupt their businesses. Yes, they interfered with business completely, yes, yesterday. So wanasema shughuli zote zilisimama Nairobi jana baada ya polisi kuamrisha wafanyabiashara kufunga maduka na kuwafukuza watu na magari kutoka katikati mwa jiji katika juhudi za kuzuia maandamano ya kupinga serikali. Picha pale ya Kimathi Street, polisi wamejaa pale. Habari zaidi vidokezo kwenye ukurasa wa mbele. Tuanzie pale juu. Nimekanyaga lami sababu ya Gachagua, asema waziri aliyefutwa. Na ni Moses Kuria. Amemlaumu naibu wa rais Gachagua akisema ndiye alifanya afutwe kazi pamoja na mawaziri wengine mwezi jana. Hii inaitwa machungu. Uchungu wa kupoteza kazi. Habari zaidi, Ufaransa Uhispania finali moto katika mechi 37 wamekutana. Wahispania wameshinda Ufaransa mara 17 katika Olimpiki. Mchuano wa soka kwenye Olympics. Pale chini vidokezo zaidi, mawaziri wapya 19 waapishwa. Hiyo tushasikia.
Unakumbuka jana baada ya kuapishwa na baada ya kuchapa hiyo saini, bendera ya huyu waziri ilikuwa inawekwa hapo
kwa gari
immediately.
Kuna mtu mwingine anaona kama bendera itapotea. Mwangaza aona giza mara ya tatu. Hii ni kidokezo kwenye ukurasa wa mbele. Na Biden asawiri Trump tishio kwa Amerika. Ni gazeti la Taifa Leo.
Tuangalie People Daily, because People Daily once more has decided to do the thing of telling us exactly what is there, bila kuweka sukari na chumvi na nini, just as blunt as possible. Another turn to eat for cabinet. The same millionaires who found their way to power after deadly protests by brave Gen Z's second hand on the tiller as president reconstitutes government. Was on page 5. Kawira back on the cross. The photo there of Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza. I'm yet to see kama leo tutaona the husband by Ichu.
Okay.
The first gentleman. Kimsupport vizuri. They have a very interesting story, by the way. Pale page on the very top. Regions with a high number of obese women. And apparently the fact that wameongelea Meru hapa, Meru is also, is it Meru or Embu?
Embu is the top.
Yes, Embu, yes.
Region with high number of obese women. Where? Hiyo sijui sasa ni kuambia aje. But Amerix had said this, and he talked specifically about Embu a few months ago.
Okay.
And he said, yeah, Embu, beautiful women, but they're a bit obese.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anyway, Wanjigi under siege over youth protests. It was quite the fracas yesterday outside his house. And then the very, very top strip. Study reveals Kenya's most tribal counties. That is also on page 3. And that in a nutshell is the front page of People Daily.
Tumalizie na The Star, how Raila Ruto deals deflated Gen Z protests. This is a Star, the big headline on the front page. No demonstrations in other parts of the country except Nairobi's CBD. Now this is a big question. Do you agree that it's Raila Ruto deal that changed everything for the demonstrators? Police mounted roadblocks in Nairobi's major roads and lobbed tear gas at protesters, and a montage of a number of protesters.
And also before
even the media,
yes,
who found themselves on the
receiving end of this.
The receiving end of police action, but some of them being arrested, a lot of tear gas in town. And the quick highlights on the front page of The Star. Young Chinese philanthropist builds dreams of slum children. Of course, a mention of what's happening in Meru Governor Mwangaza impeached for the 3rd time, and tough journey begins for Ruto's new cabinet. Yes, those are the big discussions there.
And that takes us to the cartoons. This
Start with the
morning.
cartoon on the Standard. 2 frames, one swearing in and one swearing on. I don't know why those who are being sworn in have the face of a pig. Ajua ile maneno ya
MPig, yeah.
So at a cabinet wanatumia the same impression. Swearing in, meanwhile, the Gen Z are swearing on and protesting. That's the cartoon on the Standard. On the Daily Nation, what's happening in Meru?
On page 14, yeah.
Kuna giza kule Meru, lakini Governor Mwangaza anataka kuwasha taa na gitaa iko pale. Bana, that's so dark.
I know. I love the fact that ameweka 3 match sticks. Ya kwanza. Yeah.
Anajaribu haziwaki.
Yes.
Anajaribu tena haiwaki.
Amebakisha 2.
Anajaribu kuleta mwangaza Meru, lakini kuna giza totoro.
Giza.
All right. That's a cartoon on the Daily Nation.
On People Daily, the same theme about what is happening in Meru. They have a caricature of Kaira Mwangaza inside that crocodile there. And this crocodile is labeled Meru MCAs. And she's holding a Bible. Actually, whether she inakuga Bishop Kaira Mwangaza. Okay. And the commentator says, will Mwangaza ever get out of this darkness? It's a big question this morning, and I believe it's one of those questions that
definitely
the panelists that are going to be answering and trying to just decipher.
Light versus darkness in Meru. Mwangaza in darkness. That's a big discussion. And we'll be looking at that and a lot more with my panelists. Of course, what's happening with the cabinet, the demonstrations that we had yesterday, and what's happening in Meru. Edwin Kigoli, Mesha Kodede, and Hans Ropp will be in studio for that discussion. Do stand by for that. You can be part of it as well through social media. On X at TV47 News, on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. You can tag me on X. My handle is at Fred Indemudi.
And your Ringita underscore. Number 2047 is our SMS number. 0793267279 is our WhatsApp number. Tonight at around 8 a.m. for some Feel Good Friday. Tutuambia what song you'd love and what kind of genre you'd love. DJ Granite, anzisha weekend yako as fine as possible. Ili unasemanga ni weekend imefika,
tunakwenda kujirusha. Bas.
We'll be right back.
Cape Media, in partnership with the Africa Worship Experience, present
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side. We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, Grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe right here at TV47. This is a State of the Nation with me, Fred Indimuli. Time for us to take a look at the big headlines this morning. Of course, a lot to do with what happened on the streets yesterday, the protests by the younger generation. Of course, the cabinet swearing in yesterday as well. And another story that features on most of the dailies this morning, and that's the impeachment of Governor Kawira Mwangaza of Meru. Allow me to introduce my panelists this morning. My immediate right, Hans Rop, a political commentator. Karibu sana. It's good to have you in studio. Mesha Kodede, political commentator, also joins us after a very long hiatus. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
The last time you were here, things were very different. This time round, things are quite different. And so I have to ask your position right now.
One day in politics.
One day in politics, a lot can happen. But before we even talk about the politics of the day and the cabinet, let's focus for a bit on what's happening in Meru. Less than 10 months after the last impeachment motion against Governor Kawira Mwangaza, the MCAs of that county have done it again. And one wonders, is it possible for this county to find a workable solution going forward? Because this cannot be sustained. We've seen previously, and I think it was in Makueni, where it got to a point that the governor called for the dissolution of the county because he could not strike a working balance with the county assembly at the time. Do you think that that should be the next course of action? Let's start with you, Meshach.
Thank you, Fred. I really sympathize with Governor Kawira because this kind of a thing does not give you time to deliver much. It keeps you on the battle mode throughout the period of time. But again, the people of Meru are now the ones receiving all this. Before we get to whether Meru County government should be recommended for dissolution or anything like that, that is in our constitution, I think there must be a problem somewhere. On one hand, you'd realize if, for example, if I was driving through this road and by the time I get to the destination, I have involved in 3 different accidents, maybe we have hit each other 3 times. Problem might not be those other cars, because maybe those other cars have hit only me, but I have hit 3 of them. So problem could be me. That is on one hand. On the other hand, there could be a possibility that there is a hand, an outside hand, which want to make sure that Governor Kawira is constantly on the receiving end in terms of striking a balance to work for the people of Meru, so that by the time it is 2027, nothing really has happened. But I think if there is that hand, by now that hand has achieved a lot, because it is now looking, the picture is now beginning to come out like the problem is really Governor Kawira. As at now, I do not know the details of the impeachment motion. Because again, if you look at all the attempted impeachment and including the successful one since we started devolution, you realize we're using the same term, abuse of office, what. We're just using the same normal terms. But when it comes to the floor to actually define what the impeachment team call abuse of office, some have fallen by the roadside, others might have succeeded. But then as at this point in time, we have to wait and see what is different in this motion that was not in the last motion, because we actually listened and saw how they articulated their case in the last two of them. Now we want to see the third one. Is it the same line? Is it the same things all the times? Because that will now look boring. If they come with the same impeachment type of what we saw with the same details of what we saw that had fallen. So I'm really hoping, because again, yes, we have that in our constitution and it is allowed, and it is also the right of MCAs to actually do their oversight as per the law. So what I am expecting is something slightly different from what we have seen previously. Otherwise, it would look like the MCAs are now just reinventing the wheel on every other thing. So they are making it look like a fashion.
Hans, they've done this over and over, the County Assembly of Meru. We've seen that even last November, the Senate saved the governor. The accusations this time are more or less the same. A gross violation of Constitution and same accusations over and over. Article 192 of the Constitution talks about suspension of a county government. They say the president may suspend a county government, A, in an emergency arising out of internal conflict or war, or B, in any other exceptional circumstances. Do you think that repeated impeachment motions could be considered as exceptional circumstances, or a lack of a working formula or working environment between the county government and the county assembly could be termed as exceptional?
Fred, I wouldn't really think that we could term it as exceptional, because if we try to check what is happening in Meru, there are a lot of forces behind it. Even if we try to check the case of Kifuta Kibwana in Makueni, when he, at some point, he felt like, let us go back to election, but he ended up being re-elected as twice. So it tells you there is a different way Mwananchi works in his way of voting, and there are also different interests of county assembly or members of the county assembly in the county assembly. So you realize that it doesn't necessarily mean that Kawira has no ground. It could be that there is some political forces against her. And we've seen also issues of like in Kirinyaga, whereby Governor Waiguru tried to be impeached and he ended up being re-elected again. So we shouldn't be surprised. Kawira could be re-elected in case he is saved from the Senate again. She could be re-elected in 2027. But then my observation...
But before 2027, there's still 3 more years. This impeachment is within the third impeachment in 2 years. So it would mean that the MCS could redo it over and over.
Over and over again. My observation will be a little different from the one from Meshach. In Africa, and probably a setup that we could be having in Kenya politically, we have less belief in women, more of men in leadership. And from the cultural practice of Meru, you realize that women haven't been in real position of leadership for a very long time. And to study the politics of Meru, you realize that there are leaders in Meru who haven't believed that they can be led by a woman as a governor. Even you can even overhear in other counties or even regions that some of us come. There are people who would say that a woman can never sit in a governor's seat. You get it? So I feel that there is a fight of gender issues in Meru County whereby Kawira is being fought. Even if she is not performing, we've seen other counties that governors have been elected and they're underperforming. People are always given until their term ends and then they go back to re-election and they make a different decision there. So I would really think that women should be given a chance or leadership. And I want to encourage the leadership of Meru that give it a chance. The MCS who are being used by other leaders to believe that we can never have a woman. Remember, that election came, there were two people who were fighting. Kiraitu Murungi and Linturi. So tutasema alipita katikati, like the one for Kalonzo. So there are people who haven't believed that really that happened because there was sureness between them that if it's not Linturi, it should be right.
And do you agree, Bwana Meshak, that it could be a case of misogyny in this instance, that many people are just not comfortable with a female governor? But it's also important to note that this third impeachment motion was actually filed by a woman MCA in Meru. Do you agree?
I think there is something we might also be missing, and it's probably for me it's an underlying problem across the 47 counties. The capacity of our MCAs to even understand things. The capacity demands that they come up with, if it is a problem that can be cured, maybe impeachment should be the last thing, but we as MCAs, if you are an MCA, you should come up with legal provisions that probably can stop some of the problems that you already see and the ones you can foresee. A problem that has been there, the one that probably you can foresee. Your work first would be, what are some of the legislations or gaps in legislations? Because first you are a legislator in the county assembly. So when you look at, when you perform your work of oversight and representation, you notice that there could be gaps in the legal frameworks that you are using. In the case of Kawira, we would say you have tried to impeach her twice. And probably the Senate saw a different perspective. So if I were an MCA in Meru, I would first think there could be a problem somewhere, a gap in our legislation that I can come up to fill the gaps so that we can see to it that Meru people are getting service delivery. Because if it's not that, then it tells that the only part the MCS understands is we can impeach the governor. It really requires a lot of question about what have they done, because if they tried the first time and Senate saw it opposite, they tried it second time, the same MCS, because it is not this term and then another term. It is the same term, meaning even MCS are the same kind of people. So the 49 needed to really have sat down and look at what we tried last time. It didn't work. We have the same line again. It didn't work for the second time. This is the third time. Could there be a problem even with us in terms of what we can do to make Meru people get service delivery? I think that question has not been fully examined. So the only thing they run to is we can impeach the governor. In the case of Governor Kivutha, I was actually working very close with him in his county. It was about the money, the allocation. It was purely on the budget. Like Governor Kivutha was saying, the population of Makueni cannot get a smaller percentage of the money allocated to them, while the House, the county assembly, gets a bigger, huge chunk of the budget. We are only 40 or 50 or 100 people against a population of 1 million or 2 million out there. So our budget cannot be equivalent or the same as their budget, or bigger than their budget. And that is where they differed. Right now in Meru, the two times we have seen, they look a bit petty. Somehow the whole thing look a bit petty. He hired someone, he didn't hire someone. And so the county government, for those two attempted impeachments, the county government of Meru, and especially the assembly, have painted a picture of the Pharisees kind of a thing, where everything, they were looking at the law, their lens was law. The whole world for them is law. So when Jesus says anything about marriage, they run to the law. What does the law say about marriage? When Jesus talks about worship, what does the law say about Sabbath? So for them, it was looking for anywhere they could find in the law to pin Jesus. Okay. So I see that kind of a thing in Meru, where the working relationship between Governor Kawira and the MCAs have now become a situation where the county assembly MCAs are not looking for a way to better Meru County as a team.
Hence my question, is it time we go a step further and probably seek a dissolution so that both the county assembly and the governor can go home and the people...
The danger, Fred, that can be an option, but the danger with that is that whoever will come in, they might still do the same because they will use the same route to achieve whatever they want to achieve. So the problem is, are the people of Meru, now the electorates, ready to throw all of them out, including the MCAs? Okay. And the question would beg whether the new MCAs will have copied the bad manners that now the current MCAs have.
Yeah. Just to add a bit on what Meshach said, you'll also realize even the Senate. The Senate has not also guarantee. The character could still be the same with the one for MCS. Because you've seen the governors have tried to be impeached before. You see how they saved Waiguru. When they want to save you, they send it to a committee. Yeah. You see how they just out Waititu. You realize. So they could be, the MCS also could be genuine at some point. But Senate will bring back the same governor.
Yet Mwangaza was saved by the plenary last time. They didn't send it to the...
So at times they'll also be, you realize there are a lot of politics. You could either, the argument in the ground could be right, then you are saved at the top, and vice versa again. Okay.
There's the issue of settling political scores, and even at the national level, the threat of impeachment is something that is bandied around, that if I do not agree with you politically, I can always use the threat of impeachment, where we're not working together properly, or I don't like your face, we will impeach you. Do you think that's the right way to go, Meshach?
I don't think it is the right way. Maybe perhaps it is reminding us as a country.
Isn't it a misuse of
it could be a misuse, of course, but maybe we now need to look at the opposite side as well. You see the way court of justice works. If I take you to court on this, and the court finds you innocent, somehow there are some, you are allowed to also put some charges on me after that, lodge your case against me, because maybe I've dragged your name in the mud and blah, blah, all those injuries I've caused, whether emotional and all that. And maybe this is what is missing. MCS think once we do this, whether Senate finds it or right or wrong, I mean, I have nothing to lose. And somehow they also hide behind this as an assembly. So the cost is on assembly. It is still the taxpayers' money that covers the expenses. Perhaps we should find a balance within the law where there is a case that can be paid for by the county funds, and there is one that I have to shoulder as an individual. Because that is also, again, we are fighting misuse of funds and misuse of office on the governor, while we could be really misusing even your the two times they have done it. Who has been bearing that cost? It is the taxpayers. And if they could keep on coming with this, and then that is how we end up with the auditor's report, where county has spent millions on lawyers, on legal fees. And then the same people are sitting there to ask themselves, what did you spend this money on? I mean, legal fees, this is how you spend taxpayers' money in Meru. And then it goes back to the governor as the person who has spent that money. So I think there is need now for us to check. If I have to take the case, it has to be a case that everybody says, even if she wins, but this was worth spending taxpayers' money.
There's been mention about other forces influencing these impeachments, the first, second, and the third one. Other forces outside the county government, political forces. And if at all political forces can take advantage of such a process to ensure that the governor or any political leadership is unable to work, that in itself is an abuse of the system. There should be a remedy to that as well, that politicians interested in anything should not be able to use impeachment to ensure that county governor is not able to perform their duties.
You will never know, because they disguise it. Like you realize this time around, they've disguised to use a woman, to ensure that a woman doesn't feel like they're being maybe underseen in the community. I see a lot of politics being played in Meru, and that's how you realize it's a woman who is maybe like driving this motion. Also, to my thinking is, in politics, you realize there are a lot of demands from Wanjigi on personal interest. If you go to every home of a MCA today, you will not miss at least 10-20 people who have come with some personal demands. Either they need some school fees, either they have somebody they have lost, they have a sick person, things that doesn't go in line with their responsibilities in the county assembly. So the members of county assembly now, that's where we now begin to oversee corruption, because there are a lot of demands from the ground and you have to meet them so that you are re-elected. And really there is somebody who is your competitor who could be having good income, and he tries to provide that and goes to many areas to kill you, maybe your popularity in the ground. So because these MCAs could be having a lot of expectation from the ground, they want more money allocated to county assembly, and that's why you realize they've been, we call them ward development funds. MCAs have been pushing for ward development funds. Why is the interest of these ward development funds? So that they are able to control that funds on issues of tendering and so on, so that they can earn more and sustain the pressure in the ground. So if the governor now do not want to agree with that kind of structure, the governor wants to control the funds from his office, because he has certain expectations from the ground which he really promised them, and probably the governor wants to deliver as the way they promise. So there'll be a rivalry between the both of them, and therefore MCS will use this opportunity now to give some threatening about impeachment, that we will impeach you if you don't give us ward development funds. And once you've given us this amount that we want, and they'll tell you don't give us now ward development funds with what to come and do. We want us to choose what we will do it for ourselves. Yes. And what pushes the MCS again to that corner is there is a pressure from the ground. So this pressure is coming all the way from ground to where the governor is, because if you go now today, if you go and feature or cover any MCS home today, in fact you realize that most of the MCS live in the urban. They live in town. They don't, and you'll not know which house they live. They don't live in the village, because every day you wake up in the village, you must pay. Okay. That's one of the issue. Lastly, is funds. Yeah, lastly just is that it will affect delivery. At times it is intention of other forces. If I'm interested to run for governor in the county, for instance in Meru, and maybe I have some influence, maybe to use the government or to use the county assembly, it is my responsibility to make sure that I interfere with your delivery, so that within 3-4 years you have nothing to show. And now I have a way I can maybe accuse you of misdelivering or non-delivery, and I can't take the governorship.
Going back to this issue of the funds, just like the CDF, the Ward Development Fund as well, it's a controversial thing, a very controversial discussion. Yet we know of a number of county bosses who have had to give in to the county assemblies demands for these funds, which are illegal. There's no allocation like that in law. Just to pacify the county assembly for them to be able to work. If you go back to the genesis of the very first impeachment motion against Mwangaza, it was because of a disagreement over such funds. Going forward, it would appear county governments are holding, county assemblies are holding the county bosses at a hostage, especially when it comes to this kind of monies.
Yeah, and Fred, I think this is where the national government needs to come and save devolution. In this sense, if you take a random check, like he says, you will find out that people are gathering either for hospital bills, education funds, bursary, school fees and all that, or people are gathering for some other social kind of things. And the truth is, nobody is gathering at the MCA's house for bad roads. Nobody is gathering at the MCA's house for other things. This is where the national government needs to identify a way to save devolution so that MCAs can remain purely oversighting the spending of the executive arm of the county government. If we succeed with universal health, and we succeed with NHIF and SHIF and all those kind of things, then you will not have, as a villager, to gather in my doorstep for hospital bill because it is working. So your person is sick, you know it is working, you have the SHIF and it is covering everybody in your family. You will not see the need to go to the MCA for anything extra. Your kids are in school. Maybe it is time for national government to bite the bullet and consolidate all type of scholarships together under Ministry of Education and say our children will go to school without any parent paying anything. We have scholarship for presidential bursary. We have MCAs giving bursary. We have MPs giving bursary, women reps giving bursary. Consolidate all that money and take to the Ministry of Education and say, we have 1 million children in primary. This is the cost for their learning from first day of the year to the last day, and put a budget. And then MCAs don't have to give bursaries, MPs don't have to give bursaries anymore. But I know it is a hard nut to crack because MPs are clinging on it to save them, because right now people do not even care if an MP is doing his work. People only know he's giving bursary and that makes him a good person. And CDF could be in a constituency like where I come from, the CDF could be 150 million. And we want to judge the performance of the MP on how they spend 150 million while they left 3 trillion being looted at the national government, and they are supposed to be the one oversighting that 3 trillion. So we judge them, their performance on just 150 million, which is now very wrong. So I think national government could now come and ease that pressure by simply making sure, because there are those two areas are the reasons why people gather. People gather at the MCAs and MPs on matters health, on matters education. My kid has been sent out of school, I need something. My person is bedridden or sick and they need, I have a big bill. So if those two can be enhanced and done very well by the national government, then we will have no reason for MCAs to start demanding on some extra monies to go and distribute in the families.
Yes, the impeachment of Kawera Mwangaza, the Meru Governor, big news, and features on all the front pages of the dailies this morning. And now it moves to the Senate. We'll have to see what happens from that end. I want us now to move to a discussion about the cabinet. 19 appointees were sworn in yesterday. We do have 2 who are set to go before the appointments committee today for vetting, including the nominee for Attorney General. But before we as we get into that discussion, let's watch this piece of news as reported by one of our reporters about the entry for Ruto's new cabinet.
For President Ruto's cabinet as they officially assumed their roles. Ruto's government is once again striving to stay resilient following the youth-led protest. This marking a fresh start after Parliament approved the 19 cabinet secretaries. Yesterday, the first to be sworn in was Interior CS Kithure Kindiki, who managed to retain his position despite Ruto's reshuffling his cabinet during the second round of appointments. The president acknowledged that the previous cabinet secretaries fell short of meeting constitutional standards, particularly on matters of integrity. While the government remains committed to fulfilling its promises, the president has introduced new measures to be followed by his cabinet secretaries. A key priority is to ensure the success of the Kenya Kwanza administration leading up to 2027. A key priority is to ensure the success of the Kenya Kwanza administration leading up to 2027. Among the critical challenges the CS must address are issues of accountability and corruption. For instance, to strengthen accountability and ensure responsible use of public resources, President Ruto announced plans to introduce measures that will impose a surcharge on any accounting officer or public official responsible for the loss of public funds. The government will also implement a unified personal identification UPI system for all employees across all branches of government, including constitutional commissions, to eliminate ghost workers and prevent payroll fraud. The cabinet has also been tasked to work with Parliament and introduce legal and institutional framework and continued vetting of public officials. The same framework shall be used to provide the repository of wealth declaration across the entire government under one office. This has been one of the major challenges affecting public service in the country.
As I indicated in my earlier address, I have engaged with the parliamentary leadership with a view to expediting the enactment of the Conflict of Interest Bill and expressed my determination to sign a robust, effective instrument into law in due course. I further reiterate my determination to make full use of the opportunities within our legal and institutional structures and systems.
The president says he arrived at the conclusion of working with opposition leaders, as this is the only way to make sure the government moves forward towards its objectives and goals. In less than 2.5 years to go, the new cabinet secretaries will have a huge task to play. More importantly, to conform to the bottom-up economic model, which was President William Ruto's agenda when he took oath of office in the year 2022. Paul Kerubi, TV47, State House, Nairobi.
All right, on the front page of the Standard, they talk about Ruto's team of rivals. But listening to the president yesterday, he talked about servant leadership. And he sought to inspire public confidence, which admittedly is at its lowest in public confidence in the cabinet and the administration. It's also the very first time we had the president talk about the National Economic Transformation Agenda. And this was a departure from the bottom-up economic agenda. He talked about National Economic Transformation Agenda. Interesting. But do you think it's possible to inspire confidence by swearing in the cabinet on a day where protests were also to be held across the nation? Hans.
Government, as the way it runs. That's why you even realize that today, if you hold a position in the government, and God forbid, your life comes to an end, another person will be appointed tomorrow or even the same day on acting capacities and so on. So government runs. So whether there is protest or anything, is that there is a process, there is how the government works, and all systems will move on. So it cannot be stopped.
It's an issue of the confidence in that cabinet. The president appears to admit that, yes, there's an issue of confidence here, that maybe the public does not feel that my administration is doing what it should. But having that and the protests happening at the same time, how easy is it for the president to inspire confidence?
I feel some confidence has been inspired to the GNCs who have been in demonstration, because if you realize the first demonstration that was there, we had a lot of people in the street compared to the ones we had yesterday. And it's been on record, even as president acknowledging it, that what you guys have raised are real good reasons, and I've listened to you and I've considered it. And then he went ahead and said that people who have achieved this good cause, and those are the ones who we still feel the sideshows of them in the streets. You notice that the president could have listened and just chose to bring other people so that he can deliver to the same mwananchi who is in the street.
Okay. Bwana Meshak, on this issue of servant leadership, we watched immediately after the swearing in as they drove out with their new flags, and most of them went to their homes for celebrations. And the president is talking about servant leadership, and he took time to talk about servant leadership in his speech. There was an issue of public display of opulence that was many people raised about the cabinet that was dissolved. Yet we see celebrations from the new appointees on the same day of their swearing in. That is the same problem that the other cabinet faced. Do you think that this new crop of cabinet ministers understand what the president was trying to say when he talks about servant leadership?
Fred, thank you. I do not really think it is what the president say, because right now as we speak, there is a huge chunk of Kenyans who do not even believe what the president say. So the question should be what the public expect. What does the public expect? Even amidst what the president say or anybody else say, what really does the public expect? Number one, Personally, I do not think I have a problem with celebrations, because those are now the people who feel like their man.
We're finally here.
Yeah, their man is, which is also their right to celebrate achievement of one of their own. I do not want to have a problem with that. A problem comes when that celebration influences how this man or woman needs to deliver to the rest of Kenyans. It is obvious that some people are celebrating this man or this woman in a view that now whatever is under your docket belongs to us more than it belongs to other Kenyans. Because you belong to us, whatever you are holding, including the position, now belongs to our village or belongs to our community. To the extent where that kind of celebrations will continue and influence how you deliver to the opposite side, that's where the problem will be. But if it is just a celebration that ends at the point that Fred is one of us and he has achieved something beautiful, we thank God for that and we celebrate your achievement. It ends there. How you deliver to us is the same way we expect you to deliver to the rest of Kenyans, including those who don't like you. Then we will be a better country. As to whether yesterday's swearing in of cabinet is inspiring confidence, for me it is two levels. To the nation of Kenya, it does not really inspire any confidence. It inspires confidence to the international community, because the way their worldview on us is different from our own worldview on us. For us, our issues have not been sorted as the Gen Zs would have wanted them, or Kenyans at large would have wanted them. We have not sorted out the issues of corruption, for example. We have not sorted out many other issues around governance in the country. Where we would want to be is still a distance from where we are. But you will realize just across the borders in Uganda, they actually think Kenya is great. If they're actually going to bed praying that we wish we one day have a country like Kenya. We have friends, just the other day I was convening Africa Regional Conference here in Nairobi, which was supposed to be in Rwanda, and Rwanda government could not even give us a chance to have it before the president is sworn in. Meaning, you realize the issues of security and all that, the space is too small. But in Kenya, we could turn around things and turn the flights to Nairobi, and we had it on the day the airport was being occupied. We were working with Hilton Gardens just next to the airport, and the meeting still happened. So people from Cameroon, other countries who came, and in the middle of what they have been watching on news across the 1 month, were feeling like Kenya is heaven. So yesterday's swearing in of new cabinet was inspiring confidence of other people, not Kenyans. For the international, it was really inspiring confidence.
From what you're saying is that it may have happened, but it has not necessarily sorted out the issues that you were talking about.
No, it has not. Okay. The issues are still there, and there is just now, the expectation has just begun. The other cabinet went. He has reconstituted a new cabinet, which have got some people who are in that. That leaves a little bit doubt, because there are people who believe he should have just swept the whole thing. When people went to the street, they did not probably expect that some of these people in your government are great, some of them are not. The entire government was indicted. And so bringing some back might not have given people more confidence. But then the people he has introduced, some of them are political players that all Kenyans are aware of. So that probably could not have given more confidence. The only thing it could have done is to deal with the question of his deputy earlier, of the shareholding. So I think he came to deal with that question a bit too late, because when the shareholding sentiments came, he went quiet. He didn't even speak about it. He didn't even want to answer any question. I think the journalist tried to even ask him that question, what is your view about your deputy's shareholding? And he never answered. So he is coming to deal with it too late when things are on this other side of.
It leaves the question about the necessity or the utility of including politicians in this issue, because the dissolution of cabinet and the reconstitution of the same was meant to remedy the dissent that was there, the agitation that was there. But many people are saying that was not the solution we wanted. Our problems are different. Yet the president saw it fit to have this political solution to that problem. According to you, what is the utility of this political solution, including members of the minority party in government? What was the utility of it?
You know, we've been made to believe that anybody who is a politician is not a professional. Why we've been made to believe that people, as voters, who maybe we voted for somebody, when we really loved who he is and his experience in the professional manner, that now once he becomes a politician, the other ones is off. If you could hear the interview of Mbadi, you realize or explain to a level where he said, despite the fact that I'm a politician, I'm also a professional. I have studied, I have these qualifications. I've been able to deliver that and that and that. One thing I would think is this. If you study the experiences of these cabinet secretaries that was sworn yesterday, they have rich experiences that if they deliver it right, they can change the lives of Kenya. So to my thinking is, we shouldn't politicize. We should judge somebody as
Can we really ignore the politics in it? The fact that they're here to call on ODM. There are experts across the country who can deliver in the same roles.
We've seen it in the previous cabinets. The people like Matiang'i. Matiang'i has never been a politician, but he played politics in the cabinet. We've seen people like Akina Agagwe. You know, you realize that you could even today be appointed as a CS in Kenya, and then you swing the ways of politics of the country. So more is that it's still a person, the same person. If maybe today I have a degree in business management or maybe journalism, and I become a member of parliament, and Freddie has also a degree in journalism, and is not a politician. So there have been just a blackmail to believe that you now, as a cabinet secretary, you'll deliver more than me because I'm in a political position and you've never fought politics. Or maybe you've tried to fight and you've never fought it in.
Allow me to rephrase the question, and it's the usefulness of this political remedy that the president sought. Could it, in a way, be what, because I can see on the Star, they say how Raila Ruto deal deflated Gen Z demos. Could that be the usefulness? Did it actually, this political deal, did it actually result in deflating the demos?
Yes, it did by far, because you could tell the widespread of the demos yesterday is not comparable to what we saw 3 weeks ago. Or
could it just be the lethargy of the Gen Z that they are not able to sustain their agitation? Or they lost momentum at some point?
No, I don't think so. I think the whole thing is we cannot run away from politics, because number one, these are political appointees. The right language is cabinet secretaries are political appointees. So there is no way we are going to avoid politics. The president is a political leader. He even leads a political party. So out of all that he does, we cannot assume, sleep and wake up and assume that one day William Ruto will never be a politician, he is only a president. No, that is never going to happen. He has to strike a balance between politics that is going on in the country, his party's position on political affairs, versus delivery of development agenda to the people of Kenya. So even when he appoints these people, he has to strike the balance between the politics and delivery. So what we saw, I can confidently say, Fred, you are in this space and you are covering most of these towns. It is for the first time the bridge in Migori was not burning. Why? The bridge in Migori usually burns very early.
There are no demos in Kisumu.
Usually burns very early. For the first time, my people of Kisumu were out to say how they are peaceful, and if anybody wants to demonstrate should go to Nairobi. I mean, what happened? It is political balancing, and that is why we cannot deny that the balance they striked has deflated a lot. Because again, what really fueled the other ones, some of the towns, I was sitting in some of our media houses during those times, and you could realize when you start looking at what is going on across the country, you look at your reporter maybe in Kilifi, and people watch in Migori, and then Migori catches fire later in the days, courtesy of seeing what is happening in Kilifi. Now they begin to imagine we cannot remain behind. This is something we all have to go into. Then somebody watches from Makindu what is happening in Eldoret, then they also come out. So better part of the day in the morning, you would see 2, 3, 4, 5 counties. But in the afternoon, if you're in studio, you would see 47 counties, meaning they have been inspired by the rest. So yesterday, watching your television, you realize the men in Kisumu are saying, we are peaceful, business is going on as usual, we do not want it. Maybe it inspires somebody in Meru and say, even us, we are going to be peaceful. So I think that striking balance between William Ruto and Raila Odinga, as long as Raila Odinga's backyards have been quelled and is silent, so there could be agitation in some parts of William Ruto's backyard, political backyards, but they don't see how they will. I think that is how it
And because of that, politically, ODM and Raila Odinga will always have a hand and tell President William Ruto, we saved you. Yes, we're heading towards 2027. Do you see this working agreement lasting beyond 2027 or through 2027?
I think so, because you see Baba is going to AU, so meaning he may not find 2027, and we don't see any senior politician from ODM who could have interest in running maybe the top seat. Maybe probably there is an agreement, but we've also heard ODM saying that those individuals were appointed on their individual capacity.
Do you believe that assertion that ODM had nothing to do with the appointments?
I believe so, because I think there should be an opposition to oversee the government, and therefore we just like go on for a broad-based government, whereby we can have both.
Many people are doubting those sentiments that ODM had nothing to do with the appointments. These appointees went there on their own volition, but we've seen them being congratulated by the party. These were the top leadership of the party, the chairman, the two deputy party leaders, the minority leader. Definitely the party must have given a go-ahead for this to happen. It's the working agreement going forward. How long do you see it lasting?
Thank you, Fred. Allow me to say, I was in this meeting. You remember the meeting that happened at Jaramogi Foundation, where Honorable Kalonzo was supposed to give a position of the Azimio and some young men.
The press briefing that never happened.
The press briefing that never happened. And I think it came to happen very late, maybe 2 days later, when Kalonzo was now almost alone as Wiper and a few. What happened is ODM had their PG in the morning, and they came to a conclusion as a position that we are not going to strike a deal as ODM political party versus UDA. We are going to allow the president, if he appoints some of our members into his cabinet, we are going to allow them to go. That is what was agreed in the ODM as a party. So because the party would have gone out and say, we will not allow any of our member to do what? To join, even if the president requests
but we will allow
for a name.
A chunk of our leadership to go into government.
No. They would have said, we are not going to allow, but that would still not stop. If president appoints me, it is my decision either to accept or not, because I also have a right to resign from ODM and join UDA as an individual. So ODM as a party said, instead of taking a hard stand that we cannot allow the president to appoint any of our members in this meeting, means we might also lose that member by default, because a member has all the legal rights to say, if you don't allow me, I am resigning from ODM, I am becoming an individual, and I am going. So that is the position. That is the reason why ODM still remains with Junet as the minority leader in the House, because ODM didn't leave Azimio to go and strike a working relationship, because if they did, probably even in the House we would have demanded some positions. We would have said, Kimani hata wewe, you can go, we want someone from our end to be the majority leader in the House, or whip, or if you take majority leader, we want my majority whip, and that is not the position. So what I think is, we need to get the parliament to go to the constitution and understand whether you come from UDA, ODM, or whatever, they all need to oversight this government at the executive level. Okay. The problem this country goes through is the thinking that if I was elected in UDA, my work should be supporting the president at whatever cost, even if it costs Kenyans. And that is the reason why we got to the situation of Gen Z's maandamano. In that house, none of the people were elected or working in the coalition of Kenya Kwanza wanted to hear what the people were saying. They were busy trying to save the president and save their government. If they were working as parliament, united parliament, to oversight executive, maybe they could have listened to the people they represent. We would have not gotten here.
Talking about united parliament, the perception even from inside the National Assembly is that now the numbers with the support from ODM that appears now to be supporting the majority, that now they're even considering the possibility of using a supermajority in the House for possible impeachment against one or two people. And that is a perception from inside the House, that they're seeing ODM is now on our side. So how else do you expect the public to see, no, ODM is still a party in the minority, and the numbers are not going to be skewed or misused inside the National Assembly?
I don't think they'll be misused. If you hear what Raila Odinga said, to say the things that have been that we've been always agitating for are the ones that now the government is beginning to look into. And that's why we are giving some of our young of leadership to go in. So I believe that also in the ODM in the House, the leadership, the members of parliament will now probably support the UDA ones in ensuring that they deliver. Probably you see that ODM feel that the government or the UDA party is now beginning to accept part of the things they really wish to have been done to Kenyans in their manifesto. And therefore, this teaming up will be much better and beneficial to the country, as now they'll have a combined thinking and maybe matching the manifesto and deliver to Kenyans.
So on one hand, we are saying ODM is not in government, but we agree that in parliament the numbers will be used to support the government.
It doesn't mean that because you are in your ODM as to if you are not in government, doesn't mean that you have to fight everything that is in government. If there are things that you've been pushing or pursuing and the government is to absorb them, then you need to support it, because all we better Kenya becomes
the bottom-up economic.
Fred, the issue here is, I agree with you, the perception out is definitely what you're talking about. The perception, it is difficult to convince anyone right now across the country that ODM is not part of government. In the perception of normal common mwananchi out there, ODM is part of government. But the truth is, this thing has also deflated that problem we had, where in that house there was no debate going on, Fred. The truth is, the bill or the motion was being tabled, and all the UDA, all the work that could be done is count the numbers and see that we already have the majority in the House for this voting. Mr. Speaker put the question. We do not even want to know the merit of what Fred is talking about, whether it is hurting Kenyans or not. We don't care. We have to defeat these people. I think that is the problem that has been cured. The perception has been created out.
Some people may think that now the numbers will be misused.
But let me finish. The perception that has been created out is opposite, and I am sure, again, the president or the executive will try to take advantage of this to use these numbers sometimes for what we would say for their benefit as executive, to achieve a few things that some of them might not be good for Kenyans, but because they want to achieve them urgently, they will try to use that. But if Parliament decides to become Parliament because of this, because again, the Gen Zs have also brought in some things that cannot be wished away. The way we operate will not be the same. I mean, after the 25th of June, parliamentarians have changed the perception a little enough.
Are you getting that? Because many people are not seeing that change. These people are acting the same way they were before June.
They have, trust me, when there will be a national debate or a national issue, they will listen to the Kenyans. They will never again go out and say those young people don't know what they are talking about. They will never. Watch the next finance bill, and I sympathize with Mbadi as early as now. Because that will be another place people are going to see whether the change is there, whether the so-called ODM guys have brought any change in how this thing is run or not. Okay. It is a test.
I choose to give a different opinion on when Meshach tried to say that they were just waiting to count the numbers and like let us pass thing. You know, budget process making is a big thing. It's not just something that just come to the House and members of Parliament haven't checked. We have a budget committee. There's a consultation of public participation even in Parliament. If you check the way the budget is being made, UDA as a leading party supports what the government budgets, because all of them as a team, as a party, had a manifesto to the country. And you budget based on that manifesto. You get it? So when this budgeting was happening, these members of Parliament were involved, and they give opinions based on the demands from their constituents. So when it comes to finance bill, or now you're going to finance this budget, they choose to support because they are supporting the manifesto that is in there, the government. So to say that probably some of the members of Parliament were just waiting to pass to compete with the others is not necessarily right.
They admit to themselves. Some of them said they did not even read.
And then again, and again, just to, no, not really. At times there are some, but that doesn't mean that whole members of Parliament. And again, even to hear the views of Gen Zs in the street, it doesn't mean that everything they ask it for was right.
Okay. Hold that thought. We'll come back to this discussion. You're watching State of the Nation right here on Morning Cafe or TV47. Let's take a break now. We'll be back with more.
Next on this Friday.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side. We're going to do
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe right here, TV47 with me, Fred Indimuli. I'm still in studio with political commentators Hans Rop and Mesha Kodede. Continue looking at the changing face of our politics, and especially now in the National Assembly. We may call it perception, but many people believe that the numbers in the National Assembly now favor the majority side more than the minority. In fact, some members of the minority side, members probably of the Azimio coalition who are not part of ODM, are saying that even the minority seats or some of the senior leadership positions on the minority side should have been left to some of the parties that are yet to give in to government. But Meshach, do you see a risk with the changing face of the National Assembly and how the numbers could be used or misused? We are looking at a possibility of, if ODM works very closely with UDA, those are the two biggest political parties, parliamentary parties. ODM 86 members, UDA 145 members or thereabout. That a supermajority could present even the House a possibility of amending the Constitution through a parliamentary approach or even impeaching the Deputy President, and that has been talked about. Do you see a risk of that happening?
Yes, Fred, that risk would be there. We cannot lie to ourselves that there can never be a risk when political players come together on some common grounds. The truth is, like we said earlier, it will be difficult for young or old Kenyans out there to imagine that Mbadi is no longer ODM chairman. Mm-hmm. It will be difficult for people to imagine that Alias and Joe CS Mining is no longer ODM deputy party leader or Oparanya the same. It's something that will go with people for a long time to believe that those people are now in the executive as individuals serving Kenya as a country. So that perception is not only with the Kenyans out there, but the perception will also be with our members of parliament in the House. Maybe many of the ODM members of parliament would feel, and it is something that we cannot deny, many of them are celebrating that our people are in government. They do not see Alias Anjo as an individual who has been invited into the cabinet to serve Kenyans because of his experience, not his experience as a party, not the experience of Oparanya as a deputy party leader. So that risk will be there. But it now depends on them, the individuals, to show that we didn't come here as ODM. We came here, I was invited as John Mbadi, CPA, because of my experience with finances, because of my line of career, because of what I can do to deliver to Kenyans. So that is still a problem we have to deal with politically going forward. Otherwise, like you said, we might see another Occupy Parliament, because when Kenyans will feel helpless, it will give them the thinking that that parliament is not serving anyone. But again, the opportunity has come for Honorable Kalonzo and a few others to show. The problem we have with the team, our team on this other side, is that right now, if ODM go with that perception, then it leaves Kenyans a lot more vulnerable, because someone like Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, the SG Jubilee, is alone on the other side, maybe with two MPs, Honorable Mwenje and Amos Mwago, who are not really very proactive on matters. Maybe Mwenje is, but Mwago is a bit silent. now he will save the face out in the press conference and make it look like Azimio has Jubilee. But inside, when you look at Jubilee and Azimio are just 2 MPs. The rest are in UDA working with William Ruto.
And that's what we've been seeing, that even some of these Azimio MPs who have supported the president have been even attending parliamentary group meetings at State House.
Yes.
The Kenya Kwanza coalition.
Yes.
Now, the expectation would be, and we wait to see what ODM members will do, because
ODM members will not go to those meetings.
The executive now controls both the majority and minority leadership in the House.
I don't think so.
It does. Because no single parliamentary leadership on the minority side has been reserved for the other smaller parties. It is all in ODM. So once ODM is in agreement with with the majority side, that's it. The executive controls both the majority and minority.
Fred, but why would we imagine that the government is an enemy to the Mwananchi? So whatever they want to implement, it has to be opposed.
The expectation was that this would boost debate. Yes, in the House, that these numbers will not just be controlled by one influence, at least it will encourage diversity in discussions. But this kind of control, and you've seen how Kenya Kwanza administration controls its numbers in parliament.
No, I wouldn't go with your question. I would go with what Meshach said earlier, that even if you're an UDA member, you have a right to criticize the government on where it goes wrong. Okay. So we want to have a robust discussion in parliament whereby ODM supports the government on what they think they have done it right, and UDA would criticize the government on what they feel that they have done wrong. So we have a honest discussion.
That has not been happening so far in this.
And that's what we are looking forward now going. We are seeing change of leadership. We've never seen a government that gets cabinet members from the opposition. So we can say Kenya is going, they're taking new strides which are better to the country.
Fred, the question is, can we have parliament, generally parliament as a whole, whether independent, UDA, ODM, or whichever party, oversight the executive? Can we have a situation where our parliament sees themselves as one arm, irrespective of where you got elected, to oversight the executive? Because that is where we should be. Then it will dilute all other questions. Because if Osoro, for example, just as an example, as a majority whip, can oversight the president who is his party leader, then we will have a safe Kenya. But now the problem we had before is Osoro as a minority whip will go out and tell you this thing will pass without a comma. It doesn't matter what problems they are pointing out in this, it will pass without a comma. We have to deliver this to the president. So that is what we are battling with. I don't think ODM working with UDA or any other thing is a problem, because whether ODM have been on the other side, they passed it without a comma. But just the way they said it. So why do you need to keep ODM there?
Is that we came
just to keep shouting and nothing happens?
ODM is saying we came here to save the president. But for how long will that agreement of salvation last?
Saving the president is a short statement. From what is the big thing? What were they saving the president from? Or who are they saving the president from? That's the question we might not answer here because it is detailed.
So how long will this salvation last?
I think it has already happened. Salvation has happened.
Going forward, it is permanent salvation going forward.
No, ODM.
Challenges.
From now, ODM is retrieving back to their position. They have not joined Kenya Kwanza coalition. They are part of Azimio coalition, and that is why they still hold the position of minority leader and minority whip in the House. They have saved the president and Kenya by extension. We are at a better place as a country to move forward. So we are expecting that it is not going to just be numbers in the House. It is going to be the merit of the debate. How is this helping Kenyans? So whether you come from minority or majority, we are all in parliament to represent the voices of our people.
Meshach, to say again, when Raila says we've come to save Ruto, there's some truth in it. Because there are people who have been accused of planning this protest. There are people who have been questioned in DCI. Even the issue of Wanjigi comes in. His home was raided yesterday, and there are so many things that are tied to. So it tells you there have been forces behind this thing. And now when ODM comes in, they now come to save the country, because country needs that kind of maybe coming in together, so that let's say we have a betterness. We wouldn't want to say more, as maybe my friend here, but there is just some stain somewhere that really it has caused where we are today. Because if you observe the demonstrations that have been happening, there were demands that were placed by GNCs that we do not accept this kind of products to be taxed. When the president edited, or we say those products was removed from the finance bill, they went ahead and say, no, it's not about only the fuel. We want the whole finance bill to be dropped. The president came in and conceded, and still they went ahead and say it is not about what. So with a normal knowledge thinking, you'll realize it's beyond what meets the eye.
Now, the conversation has moved, and I started by asking you what happens in 2027. I asked this because of the discussions about probably the relationship between the president right now and his deputy, proposals or even sentiments about the possibility of impeaching the deputy president. And now the question of William Ruto's running mate come 2027 has been discussed, and some are even talking about the possibility of ODM, the same way they've offered cabinet secretaries to the president. Probably in the second phase of salvation, they could offer someone as a running mate come 2027. Is that the direction we are heading to?
Fred, like I said earlier, one day in politics is far too long. A lot can happen. And when you approach the Kenyan politics, again, that is why in the region, Kenyan politics is a bit top-notch compared to maybe the politics in the other countries surrounding us. You can actually predict a lot of things in the politics happening in the countries that are surrounding us. But it is very difficult to predict on point what is going to happen in the Kenyan politics. A few months ago, we would sit here and it would not be possible for us to conceive that Raila Odinga Baba Jacom would be the one saving William Ruto at this point in time. So just like that, we cannot authoritatively say here right now that none of that is a possibility. There has to be a small chance of possibility. But there are two men here who now a lot of things depend on how they will play out their politics. That is His Excellency Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka and His Excellency the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. How they will play their politics will lead us either to that or completely opposite, because you have seen some undertones and looking at the experience of politics in the country before, sometimes it starts like that, then it ends up. When you see Honorable Kalonzo talking about, you will not impeach Rigathi, we will not accept, we will not allow, we will save him and all that, you might just end up with Rigathi and Kalonzo on one end, combining forces to the election, whether as deputy president and presidential candidate, and that will leave William Ruto with an opportunity to look for another deputy president. And he is not limited to Mount Kenya. He can go all the way to other places, the coastal region and Nyanza, Western, and any other place. Musalia is also here, is a key figure, a key political figure in this whole thing. He is trying to show that character of loyalty which many politicians really desire, that you want to have someone whose loyalty cannot be questioned even 1%. Yeah. So what you are saying, I cannot authoritatively say, no, that is not in question. Anything can happen in the politics of Kenya. But right now, those formations will, especially if Baba goes to the AU and gets very busy there, because he will not be able to play his politics the same way he does if he goes to the AU.
Would that be the beginning of the end for ODM? If Raila Odinga goes to AU, then come 2027, William Ruto picks a running mate from probably Nyanza.
It might not be the end of ODM. Again, the end of ODM will depend on who will take over from Babas. You know, again, Honorable Raila Odinga has also played something here that many people have not talked about yet. during the time he mentioned that he's ready to go to the AU, we started seeing the camps in ODM, the camp around Joho and the camp around Oparanya. The opportunity came when Gen Zs took us to this point. By that time, the Gen Z thing was not in eyesight or anywhere. But now that the Gen Z thing happened, again, opportunity came, and I do not want to say it is by default that President William Ruto just came and picked on the two deputy party leaders who are already jostling for the position of Baba when he goes. So all of them picked and taken to the cabinet. So it will depend on who will now become the ultimate party leader of ODM at this time next year when Baba is gone. That will depend on that person or that woman or man, whether ODM is dying or ODM becomes even stronger. So I want to say that we have to leave a space to stretch our imaginations, that it might not have been coincidence that William Ruto came to just pick the chairman, pick the deputy party leaders,
the minority leader,
and then that could also be, it is possible, it can also be hand of Baba, that all these people jostling, because all of them were jostling. Even Badi was jostling for a senior position more than the party chair. Opiyo Wandayi had also said and mentioned, I think there was a time Mama Aida was talking about even Opiyo Wandayi. So it might not be a coincidence that all of them have been swept. Maybe that was the way Baba wanted to reorganize party and say, going forward, all the people who are jostling are out. We are now going to get some other people who are now probably more pro-ODM than just the leadership of ODM.
Okay. Maybe also Baba didn't want anyone else to come to the top. We've seen, and there's been politics all over in the country, that why is it that Baba cannot hand over leadership of ODM? He always wanted to be at the top. Maybe it's also his smartness to make sure that he still remains the leader of ODM.
But he can't remain when he's at the AU.
That's why you realize, my observation is that Baba is playing politics beyond 2027. And he's making sure that he also has a cake in the government and also still remain the leadership of ODM. Because to raise another junior leader above from these one who have been appointed as cabinet secretaries to take up the mantle of ODM, it has to be Baba. It can never be someone else.
President William Ruto has always been interested in one huge monolithic party, and he has pushed for that when he was in Jubilee. It did not work. Now he's in UDA, and you can see now that the smaller parties, ANC, have already resolved to merge with UDA. Going forward, that will still be his intention. He could resolve, because now the entire leadership of ODM has been sorted, starting from the party leader, his two deputies, the chairman, and the leader of minority, that he could see an opportunity to also swallow ODM and become a stronger UDA. Don't you think he'll go for it? He's still a politician.
The problem with that is that Baba, having run ODM since 2005, and other parties before, I don't think Baba is that type of a person who will leave ODM to join any other person's party. But again, the deputy president right now is also one baptized member to that thinking. They know how it happened when URP merged with the TNA, what happened. And then people like Isaac Ruto came to be vindicated, saying, I told you we cannot fold our party and join. See what is happening to you now. And then now Rigiji and his boss are having a party. Now, right now, most of Rigiji's supporters in Mount Kenya saying it was a bad idea to go into this without our own party. So I don't think ODM would be foolish enough to even think they can fold party whatsoever. Fred. So if it is going to happen, it is just party and party working together under a coalition, but not one party.
Yeah, okay. I support President's intention to forming one big party. And I think the mind of President is maybe what is happening in other countries, like if you go to US, even here, our neighbors in Tanzania, whereby we have two strong parties. and they have policies that they believe in. So that at least we reduce a lot of politicking in the country and every community having their own party. If you are the president many times speaking about why he'd want to do a lot of mergers other than having a lot of parties, is because we've reduced the politics or the political parties to regionals, tribal. Because we've even discussed about Fort Kenya. If you see the party leader of Fort Kenya is from Luya, you go to chairman, secretary, all those, the leadership is from one region. So it's not like, it doesn't give an image of a country. I support what the president is saying on merger, whereby we would have two strong parties. If ODM and UDA can join up together and form up one strong party, well and good. If the other, in the other side, we've seen the alignment, we've seen it in the newspaper, whereby there's an image of Rikiji, Natembeya, and the other team. If they form another strong party, and then we have two parties that really compete, we have two presidents, like you see what's happening in the US now, it will help the country to go far, because we will reduce pettiness of saying regionals as versus you. We now begin discussing Kenya. What is it that we can offer to Kenya? What are the principles? And every party will have its constitution, will have its ambitions, will have its plans for the country. And every time a president will be elected from that party, they'll be able to deliver as what the party believes in. And if you go to this party, you will have to work on what that party believes in. And it will help govern the country, because we have two different parts, which really have we'll have strong opposition, we will have a strong government on the other side, and there'll be issue-based ideas to help govern the country.
As we come out to the end of the discussion, let's focus a bit on the person of the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua. Is it a done deal, Meshach, that he won't be running mate come 2027? Or do you believe that it is still a long way to go, and this relationship, however bad it is right now, could be salvaged?
This is what I think. I think he has outlived his usefulness to William Ruto as a person with his ambitions for capturing the seat of presidency in the next term. The reason why I would say he has outlived his usefulness to William, the assumption was that he was going to galvanize and bring together the mountain as a block into the basket and keep it like that going forward. And I don't see that quite happening. He has tried to disturb the waters and show his might, but still he seems to be having more problems with his own people. Quite a number of members of parliament from the region where he comes from are still not satisfied with him as the ultimate leader of the region. And like you said, some of the cabinet secretaries who were shown the door, like Moses Kuria, are blaming him big time about them being hounded out of office. They don't see the Gen Zs, they see Honorable Rigiji. So that kind of team cannot be assumed to be nobodies. They are going to regroup out there. They are going to marshal a serious and huge campaign on the side of president to show that Rigiji does not command the region the way you would think. And that might push the president, even if he never wanted, might push him to the level where he drops Rigiji. Even if he still wants someone from Mount Kenya, picks another person, but not Rigiji himself.
Today marks
so I, at this point, I cannot say it's a done deal, but it is a high likely a chance.
But is it feasible that they could last with this kind of strained relationship for the next 2 years? It's only 2 years. Today actually marks 2 years since the elections of 2022. And you can see within those 2 years, there's been a lot of strained relations, probably the last 1 year or so. Can President William Ruto survive or last another 3 years with that kind of strained relations?
You know, I want to believe that it's always said that a fool is the only person who cannot change. I want to believe that anything can change. Rikiji also can also change from me. So you've seen it also seems to be fighting the same government that he's in, and it makes uncomfortable some of the leadership that is in the government. I want to believe that he can still change on how he does his politics and give confidence to his party and his region. But then you will study that even in Rikiji, to be appointed as a running mate, to William Ruto, everyone was against him, even the members of parliament. At some point, members of parliament from Mount Kenya were given a chance to go to a room and talk and bring one person. And the whole team brought Kindiki. It is in the public domain. But then now, Ruto himself was pro-Kashagwa. You get it? And he went ahead and convinced the other leadership that let me work with this guy. So you will still see the same thing. And you know what those members of parliament are arguing about regarding Kashagwa? It is still the same thing they're arguing about today. They have been complaining about his arrogance, his dictatorship style. You get it, eh? And now we have another thing, his tribal lens. One of the things I know Mount Kenya would admire today is that they will want to have a president of their own. They would have somebody from the region becoming a president of Kenya. But one of the things they will observe is that can you get some force from the other region of Kenya? So Rigidi have shown to be more tribal, and he's showing it to the other regions, whereby other people fear him now to be the leader. And now, Mount Kenya have always shown to be more wiser. They will distance themselves from Rigidi because they are feeling that if how much we will want to cling to you, you've given a negative face to the other region. So we might not get a real support because the intention of every person is to make sure that our person is at the top seat.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the necessity of a possible impeachment? Is it necessary to go that route? Could it have a negative effect even on the president?
This is what I think. The impeachment thing has been talked about, but I don't see it happening for one big reason. William Ruto as the president of the country is just coming from a big, huge possibility of him going home. Because, Fred, this is the truth. If on 25th June this year, there was a mind that was fully fixed on sending William Ruto home, that day he would have gone home. Because the police was completely overwhelmed. Ruto was almost at the brink of giving up. If that team were turned from Parliament to State House, they would have gone. That evening, they would have gone to State House. Irrespective, maybe 100 would have been killed, 30, 40, 50, or whatever, but 2,000, 3,000 would have gone to State House. Now, Ruto is coming from that, something that was very close. He does not want to open another war because, again, when you sit in the seat of power like what Rigiji sits in, it is very unwise to imagine that you are a nobody, to imagine that you can take everything without a fight. You will take things but not lying down. So he does not, I don't see William Ruto wanting to go that route to open another. However much he might not be controlling a bigger chunk of Mount Kenya members of parliament, but we are still deeply ethnicized as a country. When you turn fires on somebody like Rigiji, even those who are supporting you will turn against you and say you cannot do this to one of our own who has done nothing but to support you to get the presidency and to get the power you are now using on him. So that sympathy was almost coming. You remember the days he was being ridiculed and he would go to Mount Kenya and say, they are saying I don't know how to dress, they are saying I'm a villager. That sympathy was actually coming out and you could see it in the face of people. So I'm not sure, and I am looking at William Ruto and I am seeing a person who is wise enough not to open such kind of battle, just coming from another big battle like this. So I don't see impeachment.
Final words, or you only have like 60 seconds.
One is we want to encourage the cabinet secretaries who were sworn in yesterday that now it is time that they may consider Kenya as a large, that they may deliver to the country. This is beyond themselves. Arrogance shouldn't be observed. Opulence shouldn't be observed. We should see them engaging with Wanjigi the most. We should see them giving a chance to sing anybody in their offices, appointments to anybody. We should see them delivering the manifesto, moving around to be able to be in a better position to implement that which that is expected from Wanjigi. And also lastly, to give my opinion on the impeachment is that I really do not think there is a chance for that. There is, just to echo the words of Meshach, the president is not ready for another battle again. Yeah.
So, Fred, allow me to take the opportunity to congratulate Honorable Opiyo Wandayi and Honorable John Mbadi and Honorable Ali Hassan Joho and Oparanya, who are members of the ODM leadership and now are part of the cabinet secretaries to serve Kenyans. Can you take this opportunity to now show that actually you are ready? Prove Kenyans wrong for not having you in the government at the election of 2022. Prove them that